Welcome to the Penny Bloom Podcast. Ain't another place that has got more bombast. Romp past your mom, dad's listening to Tomcats. Talking everything that make you sad. We don't want that. We're here to make you smile. Put your mind at ease. Peace, love, and bloom, and always praise Keanu Reeves. This what we about. This some weeding now. We'll talk until we can't no more, and then we peacing out. Alright, let's go. Penny Bloom Podcast. It's the Penny Bloom Podcast. Penny Bloom Podcast. It's the Penny Bloom Podcast. Penny Bloom Podcast. Penny Bloom Podcast.
Here we go.
Hello, everybody. Welcome in to another episode of the Penny Bloom Podcast. I'm Colton Robertson, and I am joined by Joseph George. What's up, homie?
What up, what up? Glad to be here.
I'm glad you are here, and let's fucking do it, baby. This is it. This is the finale. We're topping it all off here today. This Marvel character tournament is over as of the end of this episode. Now, if you're here for the first time, I direct you to the last episode, the Elite Eight, and then they would direct you to the episode before that, and then they would direct you to the episode before that, and they would direct you to the episode before that. Go to the round of 64, part 1. What are you doing here at the finale? That's absurd.
Major spoilers ahead, you know.
Major spoilers ahead for what's going to happen in the round of 64. You already know how it ends if you're here. But yeah, if you are here, I'm going to assume you already listened to the Elite Eight as well. And with that, I think it's kind of safe that we can just jump right in to what we've got brewing here. So Final Four here is interesting for me because I do honestly think that one of these matchups on one side is probably what should have been our championship. They just happened to shake out to be on the same side.
I see. Yes. I was going to put forth, and this just seems sacrilegious at this point, but like a Final Four, we randomize the matchups. It seems seems wrong to do that, though.
I even had an idea that, like, maybe we go ahead and do, like, all right, them versus them, and they face this person, and then the winner of that faces Spider-Man.
Like, we have a complete round robin.
Yeah, like a whole new other thing for these Final Four. But no, we can't do that. We got to stick to
the way this bracket has worked out, and just the beautiful matchups that it's created on its own, somehow out of randomness and our own seeding. I think we just have to keep it this way.
Oh yeah, we certainly do. But I wasn't actually going to go through with any changes or anything. It's just one side of this bracket is much more heavy hitting than the other side of this bracket.
Oh yeah.
So let's start with the other side. Let's start with our what ended up being a 5 seed versus a 3 seed in the Final Four, with Bucky Barnes versus Natasha Romanoff's Black Widow. Now, this is a hard one. This is a good matchup. I love both of these characters, and off rip, I want to go Natasha. But I've wanted to go off rip the opposite of Bucky every single matchup. And here Bucky is in the Final Four.
Is it strong enough? Is Bucky's story strong enough to bump him above Natasha?
Look at what Bucky has overcome in this bracket. There was only one matchup he wasn't an underdog. He faces Monica Rambeau in the first round, and it's like, all right. That's the easy one. But second round, he's going off against Loki. Third round, he goes off against Steve Rogers. He takes down a 1 seed. And then last round, he goes off against Carol Danvers. Bucky Barnes has torn his way through Loki, Steve Rogers, and Captain Marvel.
You know, we did say that if Captain Marvel was down in the Natasha and Vision matchup, that she'd probably beat both of them out.
I said that to be considerate.
I don't know if, like, thinking about it, like, I'd say Captain Marvel beats Vision, like, for sure, but not Natasha.
That's the thing. That was my hang up. I was like, she'd beat Vision, that's for sure. But
so I was going to be like, Yeah, it'd be really easy to say, like, yeah, if we say that, and he already beat Captain Marvel, so, like, obviously, but this is way closer because both of these people have amazing backstories, devastating backstories that are emotionally riveting and drive so much of the MCU.
So much of it.
I don't know where to go. Like, they're both deep
let's
in
take a look.
Like,
now let's go through Natasha's journey through this bracket so far. Natasha hasn't taken down as many heavy hitters. You know, Bucky took down Loki, Steve Rogers, and Captain Marvel, while Black Widow has taken down Doc Ock, Doctor Strange, and Vision. She's taken down some interesting ones as well, like one of the most iconic Spider-Man villains, one of the biggest Marvel characters, period, one of the more fascinating Marvel creations ever, and Vision, who I've been on this podcast many times saying is easily a top 5 favorite of mine.
Mm-hmm. Ooh. My vote, I think, has to be for Bucky. I think his story, his complete everything is just a cut above.
And the important thing here is that it is not the actor or the character's fault even. It's just the way their stories have been written. Scarlett Johansson and Natasha Romanoff have been done, on the whole, a disservice. While having such a riveting story and just tearing at your heartstrings, you really get that in Infinity War, Endgame, and Black Widow. A little bit in The Winter Soldier when she has to watch Nick Fury die, quote unquote, at the hands of Bucky.
Mm-hmm.
Civil
Black
War.
Widow does have the sacrifice play, though. She has that card, and that's big. Actually,
that's a big one.
That's a big
one. And not only does she have the sacrifice play, who was running the bitch? That council, you know, Captain Marvel, Okoye, I think the Rocket Raccoon, like the people who are basically keeping tabs on the galaxy, as it were. Who's running that bitch from home base?
God, Widow needs her own show. Oh my God, her show would be so good. Like if it was just like the life of Natasha Romanoff, you know, like episode one, like just chronological, just go through her life. Like, oh, I hope the future for Black Widow is bright. I hope they really bring her back in more than What If. Like,
I do too. But and then here's the thing: is that like while Widow has been awesome, and no, I don't know. Like I keep going back and forth. Like I want to. The argument we've made for Bucky every round is just how crucial he's been to the MCU as a whole, and he has. Like he has truly made not a bigger impact, but a more obvious and notable impact on the surface. Like it's like this obviously led to this, and this obviously led to this. Natasha's impact is more implicit and more in the connection she made with the people along the way. Like she did with Steve Rogers, like she did with the Hulk, like she did with Hawkeye. Like her stuff is more emotionally resonant in her immediate connections, as opposed to causing big conflicts. So it does.
She really just ties everything together. Like
she does. She is the glue.
Like,
She is what holds that reality together.
And
You know
Bucky was kind of the tearing apart. How? Come on, man. Wow. Like, I don't know if it's just Marvel writing. You know, these characters just have so many parallels you can make. And maybe that's why it seems that, like, this bracket is lining up so perfectly. But, like, we have, like, the glue, and then you have the whatever the opposite of glue is. For a little bit. Now I feel Bucky's becoming more of a glue-like character.
Yeah, he's becoming more of the, he's stepping into, like...
He's in a weird spot. He's old, you know?
The other thing that, like, I want for both of them is to just get out.
Just live.
Go live somewhere, man. Just go have a life. I want nothing more for Bucky, more specifically. I think that Natasha's, like, at the point where she does die, where she sacrifices herself so that Hawkeye can live on and take the Soul Stone back to their reality. I think that that's a point in the story that Natasha's also not really done. This is her life, is her work, is the friend she's made along the way. Like, that's what Endgame's all about, as far as, like, the beginning of that story where it's just her and Steve Rogers talking. She's like, my life was nothing. And then I had all of you. And then half of them went away.
She's, like, the only one that, like, really cares, because she's never had a family, and the Avengers was the closest thing that the next closest thing she had.
Every time I think about the Avengers found family aspect, there's only one person who even attempts to make that true, and it's Natasha.
Her and Bruce Banner need to just go off and live. Like, can Bruce not have kids because of the Hulk?
I'm assuming.
Like, is that a thing? Like, it would just be beautiful. They go off, they, like, adopt a kid and just have a family, you know, like, like, we can just have Hawkeye go with his family. We can have Bruce and Natasha go off, just live wherever, you know, just know, like, maybe that's the send off we need, you know, with these, I mean, it's hard to do Natasha now because, you know,
she did,
but, maybe the Hulk brought her back somehow with this snap. Like, maybe there's more to that line, you know? Like,
I really tried.
How does he know? Like, was he just thinking that she was going to, like, pop just right there, like, pop up, or, like, you know, like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not fully given up. I just think that this is, like, because the whole, like, Scarlett Johansson and Disney situation too, is she...
Apparently there's also this other new report where Kevin Feige is apparently working with Scarlett Johansson on a Marvel project that is not related to Black Widow. Like, apparently she's doing a whole other thing, like, on the production side of stuff. Which is interesting. It's an interesting way to keep her in the universe. I just really hope at some point it's as that character again. I'm not anywhere closer to a decision here. I think that for me, what the main thing for Natasha for me is the fact that she's the one who brings the Avengers together. Like, she is the glue that keeps them binded for me. The thing that's awesome about Bucky is just the complete and utter flipping of the page, becoming a whole other version of himself. She has that too, though. She was a Russian spy who was working for the Red Room until Nick Fury takes a chance on her. You know what I'm saying?
Like, Natasha did Bucky stuff while in her mind. Like, it's not like, obviously Bucky just has trauma, like, all over. Like, it's not like, but Bucky, like, can kind of say, like, it's not him doing those things, you know? Like,
yeah.
But Natasha, like, yes, she was pretty much brainwashed.
Yeah,
basically,
she was manipulated to the greatest degree.
It's like it. Ooh, yeah, these two are just oof. Like
I'm gonna officially cast my vote in the corner of Natasha Romanoff.
Oh God, it feels right. Does it?
That's the thing. Does it? Does it feel right?
Bucky's road to get here was so much harder. And like that shouldn't matter, like in the matchup. Like it shouldn't.
No, it's a part of it. Like not like the
because Black Widow just didn't have. She just, like the way the bracket is, like she could have gone up against those people, you know, like and beat them all.
But would she have?
Bucky did.
Yeah.
He beat Steve Rogers. He beat Captain Marvel. He beat Loki.
I do, however, like to think I would have come to the same conclusions with Black Widow. Like, because, I mean, like, ultimately what's interesting that got us here is that their stories mirror each other in an interesting enough way where, like, they have this controlled, traumatic past that results in them wanting to flip the switch and change for good.
Let me ask you this. Does Natasha beat out Steve Rogers for you?
That is tough. That is tough. I think that ultimately I probably wouldn't have come to the same conclusion. Just I do think the matchup is what led me to it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I also don't know if Bucky makes it this far if he faces someone other than Steve Rogers. Because the thing that propelled him is the fact that I came to the conclusion that Steve Rogers is kind of like Vision and Wanda in that sense, and that like the story doesn't revolve around him. But boy, oh boy, is Bucky the biggest part of and driving force in his story.
Like, part of me, it pains me to see Bucky do all of that and then lose to Natasha, but like it would make sense to lose to Natasha if he is going to lose, you know? Like
that's the thing is that like I think that these previous matchups, like they're important to the character as they are, but like I don't know that I would have come to the conclusion that Black Widow beats Steve Rogers just because I think I wouldn't have looked at them side by side and gone, well, obviously Steve Rogers was incredibly influenced by Bucky Barnes, and that's why. But yeah, man,
if like going like off screen too, like I'm really just trying to think of like the like because Natasha wasn't really given the best material to work with.
True.
Like they really just used her as like love interests, you know, for every character every now and then. Like they didn't give her much to go off of.
No,
they didn't give her much show like.
No, yeah, I mean, like she exists in Iron Man 2 to be sexualized by Tony Stark, and she's there in the Winter Soldier to kind of bring you into the awareness of who the Winter Soldier is. You get that emotional depth with Nick Fury's passing and stuff. However, there's a really obvious overtone of sexual tension between Steve Rogers and Natasha Romanoff, which I think is another point of the movie.
Mm-hmm. What just gets me, like Black Widow's story and Bucky's like backstory, they are both equally as devastating and like just horrible to think about. But what they've done after, like what Bucky, like literally like what he's done, like the amount, I don't know, like, but I'm thinking like Bucky's impacted so much more, but then I think of how much Natasha has impacted, and it's like
she literally got them the Soul Stone. That's a pretty big impact.
Oh my God. This one is hard. Like, I guess I'm falling back. I'm always retreating from Black Widow, like winning. Like I'm trying to find a reason why Bucky should win. And like, that should just tell me, like, I'm
Maybe
looking
Bucky shouldn't.
I'm looking for any reason that Bucky should win. Like,
but there's a reason there, because like,
yeah,
there is a reason. Like, it's not like they're not completely different levels. Like, they're on the same footing as characters as far as it's been presented to us, as in my opinion.
I think the Falcon and Winter Soldier raised Bucky's character more than Black Widow's movie raised Black Widow's character.
Ooh, interesting. Okay, I can get behind that.
Well, maybe I'm completely wrong in saying that, actually, now that I think about it.
I think I was going to present the opposite perspective. That Black Widow provides you the whole...
Literally, you get
her backstory. You literally get her with the family when she was younger, and you see how her sister was indoctrinated into the Red Room, and how she was indoctrinated into the Red Room, thought that she had destroyed the Red Room when in fact she hadn't. And so basically her entire career in S.H.I.E.L.D. is predicated on this falsehood that she'd thought was true. So that adds a whole other layer of tragedy to her story. Now, Bucky, on the other hand, what's rewarding about the Bucky side of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier is the recovery process. We watch him come back from that. But that's the entirety of Natasha's thing throughout the movies, is her having been recovered and working for S.H.I.E.L.D. and trying to make up for the bad shit she did.
Bucky would want Natasha to win.
Natasha
needs a win. Bucky would want her to win. It feels right. The more I think about it.
The more that, like, and that was where I came from the beginning, was on this note of, like, Black Widow beats the Winter Soldier. Like, that's the care. Like, I don't know why. That was just where I was at from the get-go.
I hope in some way that we have her back somehow, and that she is just the family glue, like, between whoever we got. Like, if it's the Fantastic Four people and, like, in the X-Men, and maybe she sees, like, how well they work together as a family, and then she brings that into, like, the Avengers, you know, and, like, hey, let's take I don't know. I just really want her to come back. If it's like a different actress, maybe completely, like, maybe that's the route they're going, is that it's just going to be like a variant, or, like, you know, just a different multiversal version of Black Widow.
Yeah,
that we can maybe just have, and that's how maybe they can. I don't know, but I hope we get more Black Widow. Like,
I sure hope so too. And you know what? I think we're set there then, huh?
Mm-hmm.
We've got Black Widow, Natasha Romanoff in the final matchup, the championship game of this Marvel character tournament. Feels good. And, you know, she overcame a lot on that side of the bracket. I mean, we had Steve Rogers and Loki and Thanos and Captain Marvel and Doctor Strange and Thor and Vision. There was some heavy hitters on that side of the bracket. And Black Widow emerges above them all.
Atta girl.
Atta girl. I'm proud. And that will lead us to the other side of the bracket, in which this is the match that I think probably would have been the championship otherwise. But here we've got a 1 versus a 2 in Peter Parker versus T'Challa.
Whew.
Eek.
Whew. I don't even know where to start.
I don't either.
One is rooted in nostalgia and deep, deep childhood love. The other is newfound love. And nostalgia weighs so heavy, like, in things. And I'm trying my best to, like, not let it weigh as much as it should.
But even removing nostalgia, obviously we grew up with 5 or 6 Spider-Man movies before we got Black Panther. They made their introductions into the MCU in the same movie.
True.
In Civil War. Removing nostalgia, you still have the iconicism factor. And Spider-Man has been the guy for Marvel for decades. Decades and decades and decades. Now, T'Challa had, I'd say, a greater cultural impact at one point than Spider-Man ever did at any other given point.
Oh, 100%.
That moment in 2018 hasn't been matched by another superhero ever. T'Challa was the most culturally impactful superhero ever for a second. I mean, you couldn't go practically anywhere for a good several months without seeing the Wakanda Forever salute and hearing it somewhere. He couldn't. Chadwick Boseman couldn't go anywhere for, I mean, rest in peace, for the rest of his life without hearing it.
Mm-hmm. That's like,
I mean, I'm sorry. There's Tobey Maguire. People aren't approaching Tobey Maguire on the street and going, "Go Webb, go!" You know what I'm saying? Like, that's
like, now I'm just trying to think of any movie that came close, like, culturally. Like, Endgame or Infinity War maybe is the only other one, just because of how devastated everyone was, like, at the end. Like, the shock.
Like Infinity War and Endgame are culturally impactful for, like, a whole other separate reason. You know, it's the culmination of the biggest box office draw of the last 10 years, and it becomes the highest grossing movie of all time, aside from Avatar. Endgame does. Like, that's a cultural moment, to be sure.
But Black Panther had an album. It had, like, the album, like, just getting Kendrick to do to put together an album for a movie is just amazing.
Oh,
the whole album was just awesome.
They killed that.
The movie is the most complete Marvel story ever, like, in one movie. This character is just amazing. Like, his virtues, what he stands for, you know, like, it's like, looking up, like, Peter Parker looks up to T'Challa. Like, that there's no question about, like, if Sam, you know, but, like, when we were questioning Sam Wilson and T'Challa, like, who would look up to each other, that's more mutual respect there. But, like, in this scenario, Peter's a kid, you know, he's a kid still. He's looking up to T'Challa.
I mean, like, how could you not? If you are, I look up to T'Challa, for the love of God. Like, that is a hero's hero. You know what I'm saying? There's no doubt about it. And I think that Peter Parker has a special story. You know, I think that the conflict and the duality of the whole secret identity, don't want the people I love to get hurt, I am just a kid. That's another part that like I don't think we usually take into account as a credit to his character, but like he is just a kid. I rewatched Spider-Man 2 last night, and that scene where they carry Toby through the train and then they lay him down without his mask on, and they're like, fuck, he's just a kid, no older than my son. Like,
it's just hard with the actor. Like Tom is the youngest looking one, so you get that a little bit more.
For sure.
You just can't have like a legit 15-year-old go and play the role of Spider-Man, you know, like. But
I think that there's a lot to overcome there, but you know, T'Challa and his on-screen portrayals, you know, the introduction to his character is watching his dad die. His dad dying in his arms. That's you got the Uncle Ben. You got the King T'Chaka. You got
damn
right there. But you know, the rise of the Black Panther in the MCU, and you know, him gaining the title of the Black Panther officially after beating M'Baku in the trial by combat, and then Killmonger challenging him and him being defeated. Like, that's another thing that you just don't see a lot in superhero movies, is like our hero actually losing.
That's why it's like you think of that story and how complete it is. Like,
to us, dying.
He legit was thrown off that waterfall, like stabbed and then just
dead.
Like, wow. Like, he went through so much so quickly. Like, that's why that movie's just beautiful. Like, so much happens to T'Challa, like in this movie. So much. He becomes the Black Panther, then has to get it stripped away, then becomes, you know, again, and then stripped away, then killed, and then back to life. Oh, become the Black Panther again, you know, but then you're killing like a brother, basically, like, you know, a person that you definitely don't want to like have, you know, you want with you, but it's like, oh wait, like I really, that's like one of the only gripes I have with that movie is that Killmonger, like, his character just can't continue.
Yeah.
But like, that movie's just beautiful. Like, oh my God, like everything about that movie just rocks. Like, Wakanda, visually beautiful. Shuri,
that's fucking fantastic.
Like,
she rocks.
Oh my God.
Okoye, Nakia, they're all awesome. M'Baku will, like, it's an excellent
MCU
collection.
Movies don't touch Black Panther, like, not even in the same
Homecoming
ballpark.
and Far From Home don't even come close. Not by a long shot. I think that and I mean, like, I love the Spider-Man, like all the Spider-Man movies by Raimi, and I love the Amazing Spider-Man movies. But like, in terms of like critically, those first two films, like, I think they're probably on par with Black Panther critically. But I don't feel as sorrowful come the finale. I mean, a little bit more in the Doc Ock case, I do. But Green Goblin, you know, he doesn't die with a redemption in sight. He, don't tell Harry. Just goes.
He did die really quick, like very spontaneous. But
and I mean, like, it had to happen. He was going to kill Spider-Man. Like, that was that. I mean, they all die fighting Spider-Man. It's their fate.
I did that backflip so many times on my bed, like imagining the glider coming right behind me. Oh man, and like every time I think of Spider-Man, it's just my entire childhood, like literally, Like, I own blockbuster VHSs of Spider-Man. The guy was just tired of me renting them so many times. Like, I wore out those tapes. Like, the tapes blew up. You know, like when a VHS unwinds?
Yeah.
Have you ever had one do that, like, while it's playing? It literally, like, it just starts spitting the tape, like, out of the VHS player at, like, rapid speed. And I went through, like, multiple copies of this movie, like, because of just how much I watched those movies. Like, and I don't know how many Spidey costumes I've had. I don't know how many times I've been him for Halloween. Like, I don't know. Like, it's hard for anyone to beat Spidey. Like, anyone. And if there is a character in the MCU to do it, like, it would be Black Panther. It would be T'Challa. I don't know. I still don't know where I stand.
I don't know either. I don't know either because, like, it really is that, like, how I'm just trying to determine just how much nostalgia is playing a game with me, because, like, I think to Peter's story, you know, I love this is the angle that I do prefer Peter Parker over T'Challa. I'm not a huge fan of the lavish royalty thing. I do like our working class hero, like we see with Toby and with Andrew. A little less with Tom Holland with the Stark Tech and stuff. But, like, I love the working class hero angle. That's one that
we can put ourselves in Spidey's shoes a lot easier than we can put ourselves in T'Challa's shoes.
That's for sure.
It just makes Spidey, like, a much more relatable character. I mean, especially with kids, you know, like, he has an awesome costume and he's young in high school and, like, he just got these powers. Like, it seemingly could happen to anybody. And that's, I think, why Spider-Man is just so universally loved, is that it's just, you know, he randomly got bitten by the spider, could have been anyone. Like, and that's why people love his character so much. He's just very relatable. But, like, T'Challa's T'Challa. Like, you don't have to relate to him. Like, his character is so strong in his, like, virtue and everything that, like, you don't need that aspect of the story.
Matter.
Exactly. Yeah. Like,
and it's like, there's also just, like, this more unbelievability about the story. You know, he lives in Wakanda, a sheltered nation, hiding its resources entirely from the world, and he is actually the king of this entirely just futuristic, incredible society that is kind of moved past like, they have some qualms amongst their
closest to, like, a real life utopia, though. Like,
yeah,
closest thing we've seen in the MCU, that's for sure.
That's for sure. Certainly. But, yeah, I don't know. I think it really is the relatability that gets you on Spider-Man. That would be the sell here over T'Challa. Would be the fact that, you know, it can be anyone behind the mask. That's the message of an entire movie, Into the Spider-Verse. They literally say, it could be anyone behind the mask. It could be you behind the mask.
Yeah.
The other angle here, only T'Challa could be T'Challa, buddy.
That's true. Like, oh man, I didn't think about that. Like, he was the first to open up Wakanda. You know, he made that change. I mean, although heavily influenced.
It was just the right move. And, like, I mean, heavily influenced. He was also fighting against Killmonger, who was fighting for that in a way, not the same way, but in a way to reallocate Wakanda's resources to empower Black people around the world. That was
that post-credit scene where he lands on the basketball court and like this is like tells Shuri like this is your gonna be like, or you're the head of science, whatever the position was called.
Yeah, science and development.
Yeah, science and development, like,
or research and development. She might have been the head of R&D for the Wakandan embassy.
You just coming out of that movie, you feel so good, and the slam dunk at the end of him standing in front of like the UN basically, and they're like, "What can Wakanda possibly give us?" The developed part of the world. What could you possibly do? And then you just you're like,
and they just like zoom in on his face, and he's like, "You don't even know. You don't even know. That's how advanced we are. You see, you don't even know what we can provide. That's how advanced we are."
And I mean, gotta think about T'Challa like immediately being like, yeah, during the events of Endgame, come here. We can, my army, everything, all yours, like instantly.
Yeah, Wakanda was the site of the final battle.
There's a reason it was there. Like anywhere else where no force field, basically, like they get wrecked. Like without Wakanda, without that massive army they had, like. Spidey's just Spidey.
And that's the thing. You hate to compare. Like, this is the only time you'd be comparing. This is it, because I love both these characters to death. And it is only when you put them next to each other that you gotta go like, like, it probably isn't my favorite character of all time. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just probably isn't. I think that there are really good Peter Parker stories. And I think we've seen a few of them unfold on screen. However, I don't think that to this point, Spider-Man's had quite the epicness of a story that T'Challa has.
I agree.
I think the more we talk about it, I'm looking for reasons. Like, I'm doing what you were doing for Bucky last round. I'm looking for reasons for Peter to win. I just don't know that he does.
I think T'Challa takes this one. And how fitting that it's Black Widow and Black Panther.
Like, man, what a fucking turn of events this is. All our 1 seeds. All our 1 seeds went down. Now we're left with the 2 versus 3, I believe, in Black Panther versus Black Widow. And as I said, I thought Spider-Man and T'Challa should probably be our championship. And that's the thing, is that was the main event of this episode.
Yes. This matchup,
it goes a little easily to Black Panther for me.
Mm-hmm. I think the nostalgia is like the only thing that like gives Spidey the upper hand. But if you just look at the character, the story, like it's kind of clear like who the winner is. Like, you just got a kid from Queens that's trying to figure out what the heck is going on versus someone who can give the universe a helping hand.
There you go. Can't be your friendly neighborhood Spiderhood if there's can't be your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man if there's no neighborhood to protect.
Can't be Star-Lord T'Challa if there's no universe to protect. Is the yeah.
There's definitely no neighborhood without T'Challa there.
It feels okay though. I'm not as devastated.
And then that's the other thing. We're not playing favorites here.
Mm-hmm.
We're not playing favorites, because if we were, this is easy. Spider-Man makes it all the way to the championship and wins the championship. If it's favorites, I'm sorry, Bucky Barnes and Black Widow aren't in the Final Four.
Nope.
it shakes out the way it shakes out, and the way it's shaken out is T'Challa's facing off with Natasha Romanoff in the chip. Yeah.
It's T'Challa.
I think we gotta go. It's T'Challa.
T'Challa wins here, and it's fitting. Like these two, the fact that they're both in the championship. This is like what I like. People in sports, like every time you get second place, everyone's like, like if you're the runner up, everyone's always disappointed. Like, oh, you're the like you were so close, but you didn't get there. That's like, no, like Natasha had to beat all of these goated people to get here. Like these are the top 2 people we have out of 64 characters that we picked. So no matter who, like they both won. Like,
yeah,
like no, like there's no, if they're both here, we obviously love these characters very, very much. Like,
it's true. Exactly.
And
it's entirely subjective.
Yeah. Even though this winner is somewhat clear, it's not, it is still close. It's not a landslide that T'Challa beats Natasha.
No, not by any means.
But
like we said, 2 seed versus 3 seed.
Yeah. This, and the 1 seeds, like, it really is just the nostalgia with the character. Like, that's really why they were put in 1, is just like the iconicism and nostalgia of the character alone. But I'm glad that, like, the winners that we ended up choosing were more based on the story, the character, the deeper dive, not just the surface level, like image that you think. Like if we're just thinking like how quickly like the image of the hero pops in your mind, like, yeah, the 1 seeds just take it home. Like you think of Spider-Man, you see the mask like instantly. Iron Man, you see the suit. Thor, you see Mjolnir. Like it's like obvious, but Marvel, like, their characters, like in their their stories, like if it's just superheroes fighting superheroes, like, or it's supervillains, that's who cares?
I'll say, like, we did a whole Star Wars tournament, and the finale was what we thought it would be from the very beginning. Not here. We had to think about it. We had to discuss, and somehow we end here with T'Challa and Natasha.
I think like the people's champion is Bucky here. I think Bucky's like the
underdog who made it.
Yeah, he's like the David versus Goliath. Like in this bracket, it seemed he had a good run. I'd say he's like the people's champion.
I feel that. Yeah, but, definitely the lowest seed that made it the furthest.
Mm-hmm. But T'Challa feels right. It feels totally right that he takes this all the way.
Yeah, I think, and I think we've done plenty of talking about both those characters this episode, so it's like we don't really need to elaborate there. Mm-hmm. I think that putting them next to each other, it is interesting. I do. I think it's T'Challa, but like you said, not by a landslide. Natasha's the shit. She's like I've said,
she's in this championship. Like
it's that resiliency, that rebellious spirit, that willingness to push on.
When Hawkeye was about to stop reading through folders and boxes, she was the one who kept him going and found the solution. Like,
there you go.
She is the glue. She's the family. She is at like all the good parts of the Avengers.
She's the defining piece. But yeah, I don't think it quite beats T'Challa's Black Panther, and or T'Challa's Star-Lord. T'Challa just in general.
He's just a king in everything he touches.
A king, and I can honestly say, I by no means thought Black Panther was going to win this tournament entering.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my heavy-handed favorite was Spider-Man, and he took him down. And that's just what this tournament does. It makes you think. It actually makes you put them up against each other, and you got to execute. We had Iron Man, Thor, and Steve Rogers as 1 seeds as well. Iron Man goes down to Sam Wilson. Sam Wilson goes down to T'Challa.
Really makes you realize that the main characters in Marvel really are pushed by the side characters.
Yeah.
Like, and the side characters are really
where the driving force of the story comes from.
And the good, critical, like, emotion comes from, too. Like,
man.
Huh.
Well, and I want to talk about that for a second, because I think what's important there is that there's not a lot of attempted romances. If you attempt a romance and it doesn't execute, it's painful to watch and therefore makes me not like it as much. Steve and Peggy, Tony Pepper, Thor and Jane. I mean, Nat made it this far, and they even, like, I can't believe she did with the like, we were basically ignoring the whole Nat and Hulk thing pretty much the whole time. That hardly came up in reasons we liked her story. It's hard to execute on a good relationship, and I think that the main characters, as a main character in a Marvel movie, typically that's one of the draws, is a romance. And that's why the side characters get to have the more fun, emotionally resonant stories. Yeah, Sam Wilson. You ever tie him to a woman? Bucky. You ever tie him to a woman or another character? I mean, T'Challa was tied to Nakia, but like they don't get to go into that really. Not for real. Like, she's just kind of there.
That's true. Yeah, if a character is kind of given a romantic, like, interest, their story kind of they just don't have the you don't have the openness that you have with, I don't know. Yeah. Maybe that's,
and I don't want to say that like it automatically makes your story bad, because like I think
like
back to
Wanda
and Vision, and
that's where it's done correctly. Like,
and that's where you see why both of them reaped the benefits of it. They're both in the Elite Eight, and it is because of each other. That's Captain Marvel. No romantic interest in the Elite Eight. Spider-Man, obviously, he's got MJ, but he's also a kid. So high school romances are about as important as everything else in the world to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting conundrum.
Looking just at the rest of the Elite Eight.
T'Challa. T'Challa. T'Challa.
Wow. What do you think like a Thanos love interest would be like? Like he'd have to find a real, he'd have to find a real, I don't know
Midnight
what
Proxima or whatever. Proxima Midnight.
That'd be interesting. Just him,
I think.
Yeah, I think that does conclude it.
It feels right. T'Challa takes it over Natasha Romanoff there in the championship, and
Black Widow, Black Panther, King and Queen of this Marvel bracket.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. I feel good about it. I feel real good about it. That's the conclusion, the finale, if you will.
There it is.
This was the Penny Bloom Podcast. I was Colton Robertson. I was joined by Joseph George. Thank you very much for joining me on this 64-character tournament here.
Oh, of course. It's always a pleasure to be out here.
Always a pleasure. And if you do want to relive this, knowing what's coming, you go back to the seeding and you hear us place everyone into place and you go, oh shit, that person's down here and they end up winning. This person's down there and ends up in the final four. Like, it's interesting. That's available on patreon.com/CoroBloom, where we did all the seeding, and there's also like 21 plus hours of exclusive content. It's a lot of fun over there, and all that money goes back into making sure the podcast can happen. Head to Twitter and follow @PennyBloomPod. And then after that, go and follow @PennyBloomPodcast on Instagram. And remember, peace, love, and bloom, and Wakanda forever.